Hi everyone, I thought I'd do a quick video about how I render lamb fat for preparation to use in soap and also moisturising cream. So here I have some lamb fat, as you can see, which has been minced prior to melting. So what I'm going to do is, if you don't have a mincer, get the fat and just dice it up in small little bits, and that will be sufficient. So that's all that's all the lamb fat in the pot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add water to this. So that's about, I actually don't measure the water, probably about 4 to 5 litres that is. Then what I'll do is I'll put the lid on and at a very low heat, cook that down so that it will melt. As you can see, there are like little bits of mince still in there. So what will happen is when you melt this and then you strain it, you will see little bits of mince that obviously don't melt because they're not fat. That mince I give to my neighbours because they have dogs and it's good for pet mince so that it doesn't go to waste. If you don't have that, you can compost it, but it's better to find somebody with an animal and give it to them. I give it to them free of charge so that the animal can eat that as well. Otherwise it's a waste, which is what I'm not about. I'm all about zero waste. So I'll just turn this on and then we'll come back after it's melted, and then I'll show you how I strain it and put it into these recycled plastic buckets that I have. What will happen is I'll pour the entire mixture in here, and because it's then fat and water, the water will eventually, and the oil will separate, the water and fat will separate, sorry. The water will remain on the bottom and the fat will remain on the top. And then you tip it out, holding the fat, and you scrape all the impurities off the bottom. And then I do that 3 times. So I'll show you what that's like. I've got my little tool bag here, so I'll just light this baby up. It's quite a warm day here, surprisingly. Here in New South Wales, it's been quite cool. So I've got a gas bottle here which is out of shot. Okay, that's on. So I'll put the lid on that, and I'll come back to that in about 10 minutes. You don't want to cook it too hot, you don't want to make it too hot so it really generates a lot of heat. As low as you can get it is fine. I'm back everyone. Much to my disappointment, the real time when I was filtering the fat from the mince, the video didn't load. Anyways. So you can see this is my fat. I'm not sure if you can see it very well. I'm just going to pour it into this sieve. It doesn't look very nice, and I can guarantee it does not smell very nice, but it makes great soap. And so you can show you now the status of where everything is at. So this is the mince. So that I'll put in the fridge and give it to one of my neighbours for their dogs. What you can do, and I have done this in the past, is I've put this back in the pot with water and cooked it through again and got a little bit more fat out. I may do that, I may not, but for the purposes of this video, I'll just leave that aside. Okay, then what we have here, I've got 2 and a bit buckets of the water and the fat, and I want to show you what that looks like, so that when you're doing this, you won't be dismayed if you see impurities, etc. on the top. That is fine. It's the first time you've done it, so I actually don't count this in my render. I do it 3 more times after this so that it can be incredibly pure. So I'll show you what that looks like. I'm just going to move the camera. See how this is the largest one, and you can see those impurities, etc. So I've got 3 buckets here. I'll put these in the fridge and they will set and like I was saying, the fat will rise to the top and the water will remain on the bottom. I'll show you like the side of the bucket so you can kind of see already. If you can see that discoloration, you can see this is the fat and this is the water and the other impurities, etc. So you need to wait till it's firm before you tip it out and continue processing it. The other thing is, like, I have a little bit, so I'll just tip it up. Sorry if that's made you dizzy. I have a little bit on my hand. So for example, this fat is actually excellent for your skin, and so just rub it in your hands and it's a brilliant moisturizer. In fact, in Italy, my mum tells me the story of the leftover pig fat when they were making salami, and they would slaughter the pigs in preparation to make the salami. The leftover fat they would basically rub on their hands, on the leather yoke that would pull the oxen, and on their belts, anything that was made from leather, as they would rub the fat on, and they'd rub it into their skin, because I can even do that. It is an amazing moisturizer. And you can see my hands. Look, I mean, I'm by no means a hand model, but you can see kind of how they're smooth and moisturized. The fat is the best, and I make that lamb tallow balm. I call it baby balm because it's soft enough for babies. I wouldn't do it from this fat here, and I need to render it 3 more times, so I'm happy with the purity of it. But it's very, very good for your skin and gentle enough for baby skin. The other thing I will mention is that sometimes people purify it with salt, and I have done that in the past. Now I've moved away from that, and I just purify it with water because it's sufficient. The salt does draw out the impurities, but then I find that the fat is a different consistency once I've used salt to render it. So water is sufficient. The other thing is you should use water when you're at this first stage of rendering. Otherwise, it's difficult when you pour it to separate the components of the fat. Okay, I hope that helps. Hi everyone, Delizia from Delizia Naturally again. I'm going to show you how the fat has turned out since it's been rendered and been sitting in the fridge overnight. I'll show you what it looks like, and I'll show you how I process it next. So here we go. So this is the large bucket that we had, and as you can see, the water is below the fat because we know that fat is denser than water, so it will rise. So I've just got a spatula here, metal spatula, or if you've got a knife, whatever it is. I want to just show you the top. So you can see that it has impurities. That's okay because I'm going to render it 2 more times. So what I now do is I just, around the perimeter, I just go around with this knife, because this essentially will release the fat. You can do this over the sink inside, but I prefer to do it outside just because of the water. I like the leftover water to go straight onto the grass rather than down the sink, but it's up to you. Okay, so that's released it. I just do a bit of stretching. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip it out onto my hand, and the water will go through my hand and the fat will stay in the top. You could do it on a board or something, but then the water's going to go everywhere. So this is just the way that I do it for a volume like this. And you can see that's the water, and see that there? They're the impurities that are coming out. So what I'll now do is I'll scrape those off, as you can see, and put it in the bucket here. Now I might use this fat for making a candle for outside or something like that, because I don't like to waste it. Just scrape as much as you can off. So just continuing to scrape off those impurities that have come out. So you can see it's not perfectly clean, but pretty well so. Then at the top, I'll take some of those impurities off. Because I'm going to do this 3 times, I don't look for perfection on the first one, because I know, to be fair, I'll be rendering it 3 more times. Okay, and then like this, I've cleaned this pot out, so I put that in the pot again. I'll do the same for these 2 buckets, then I'll add more water and render it again, and that will be the first time that I render. Hi everyone, I wanted to show you again the lamb fat. So after I separated it from the water, from the first melting, I've put it back into this pot with water, and I'll show you what it looks like. So you can see there's still some impurities on the surface there. That's okay. So what I can do 2 things at this point. I can, as is, pour it into the buckets and then put it in the fridge and let it set and then redo this process again. Or I can get a cheesecloth and put it on top and strain it through. And I now filter this. I've just got an old handkerchief that I've put on top of the bucket. So you can see there's no solids anymore, because this is the render without the solids. So I'm just going to pour it through here. You can see that it's pretty clean. Just a safety warning, this fat is very hot. So if you splash it on yourself, as we know, fat will melt at a higher temperature than water. So this, yeah, if you get it on your skin, it will burn. So with this second bucket, I'm not going to use a cheesecloth, I'm just going to pour it straight in. So you can see with this one, the impurities are getting caught in the handkerchief or cheesecloth, whatever you have. So that means that this one, when I tip it out, it won't have the level of impurities that these do. But that's okay, because this is number 1. I render without the fat, and then I will do it 2 more times. So 3 times in total without the solid fat or without the solid mince, and four times in total including the render with the solid mince. I hope that's not confusing, but if it is, just message me and I can explain further. Just having it just to help the fat strain. Hi everyone, it's Delizia from Delizia Naturally again. Just take a drink. I wanted to show you some of the soap that I make with the tallow. So from my left to right, this is the lamb tallow soap with oat, milk and honey. And it goes brown because of the sugar content of the honey. I like to keep them separate because some people have allergens to some of the essential oils and product within each soap. This is the oats and lavender one. This is the lemongrass one. This is the tea tree and orange one. And this is the tea tree swirl one. So all of these soaps are made with tallow, either beef or lamb tallow. These ones behind here don't have any fragrance. So this is the beef tallow without fragrance. This is the lamb tallow without fragrance. This is a paper bag. I also make a shampoo bar, which has lemongrass and tallow and coconut oil. And what else do I put in there? Almond oil. So that's really good if you have a sensitive scalp or dandruff, etc. And it means that, you know, we're moving away from the plastic bottles which contain shampoo. So I use this, and I'm encouraging all my friends and family and other people to start using bar shampoo as well. I also make, as you can see here, this is tallow moisturizer. So this one I call baby balm because it doesn't have any fragrance, and this one I call luscious lotion because it has tea tree oil and almond oil in it. Both very good for sensitive skin, and like somebody that I follow on Instagram called the Vellum Soap Company, she says that human beings are animals, so it makes sense to put cream from a byproduct of an animal on our skin. So this cream is actually quite popular, especially with babies and breastfeeding mothers. So this is also good as a nipple cream for breastfeeding mothers, knowing that it can get a bit scratchy and irritable. So this is mostly the product that I make from the tallow. And now what I'm going to show you is the next stage of the tallow rendering, the fat rendering process into tallow. So I'll just move these all aside. So you might remember that this was the lamb fat that we rendered and put in the fridge. And I'll show you again now. You can see that the impurities are lessening because this is the first time it's been rendered without the solid. So this is the larger bucket. So this larger bucket, the one that I filled first from the big pot that you can see behind me, this is the first pot that the first pot that I filled, and you can see that it's very clean already. See that? So I will, to purify the fat, I will put this through 2 more times. So we'll just take this one out, just so you can see the bottom. So this time I have like just a metal spatula going around the rim of the bucket. And I'm going to tip it out. For some reason the video stopped. So you can do this inside. I would do it inside after the first render, so that you're not dealing with that solid mints and impurities, and it does smell a lot. But because it's a nice morning, I've decided to do it outside. And also it means that, I think I mentioned in the last video, when I tip out the bucket, the water goes straight onto the grass. You could do it over the sink. And you can see that is very, very clean. That's the third cake. So now I'm going to melt that again with water. So I'll probably put one of these buckets full of water in the pot there to melt it, and then do that whole process again. And that's called the second time that I render. And then I'll do it one more time, and then it's ready for me to use in soap and other products. Just rubbing the remnants of that fat into my hands because it's so good. You can weigh the raw fat that you get from the farm or the butcher or whatever it is, and you can work out the yield. So what I mean by that is you can say I had 5 kilos of fat before I had started the render process. I can weigh that 5 kilos, then I can do the first render, separate it, and then not weigh it yet if I'm not ready to use it. And then after I've finished all my rendering, then I weigh that purified tallow. And then I can work out the percentage of yield that I have got between the raw fat and then after I finish the purification process of the tallow. Usually it's about 65–70% of purified fat to the raw material, and that accounts for the 25% of impurities, mints, other little bits of grizzle, etc. So there's no point really weighing it along the way. Weigh it at the very beginning and the very end, and then whatever you have left, then what I normally do is I pre-weigh it into 1 or 2 kilo blocks and then put it in the freezer. And then when I'm ready to make soap or cream, I take it out, melt it, and then use it.